Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Valyrian steel daggers. These daggers are some of the most prized possessions in Westeros, and for good reason. They're incredibly rare, incredibly strong, and incredibly sharp. But what exactly makes Valyrian steel so special? And why are they so important in the Game of Thrones universe? But before we get into all that, I just want to say that I'm really excited to be making this video. I've been wanting to talk about Valyrian steel for a while now, and I'm finally getting the chance. So without further ado, let's get started. So, what is Valyrian steel? Well, it's a type of steel that was created by the Valyrian Freehold, an ancient empire that ruled much of Essos. Valyrian steel is incredibly strong and sharp, and it can even withstand the magical properties of White Walkers. It's also incredibly rare, as the secret to creating it was lost when the Valyrian Freehold fell. Now, you might be wondering why Valyrian steel is so important in the Game of Thrones universe. Well, there are a few reasons. First of all, it's the only type of steel that can kill White Walkers. White Walkers are these undead creatures that are basically the main antagonists of the show. They're incredibly powerful, and they're basically immune to regular weapons. But Valyrian steel can kill them, which is why it's so important. Secondly, Valyrian steel is used to create some of the most powerful weapons in the world. For example, Longclaw is the sword of Jon Snow, and it's made of Valyrian steel. Widow's Wail is the sword of Jaime Lannister, and it's also made of Valyrian steel. These are just a few examples, but there are many other powerful weapons that are made of Valyrian steel. So, those are just a few reasons why Valyrian steel is so important in the Game of Thrones universe. It's incredibly rare, incredibly strong, and incredibly sharp. It's also the only type of steel that can kill White Walkers, and it's used to create some of the most powerful weapons in the world. I hope you enjoyed this little intro into Valyrian steel. In the next video, we'll be talking about the history of Valyrian steel, the properties of Valyrian steel, and the importance of Valyrian steel in the Game of Thrones universe. So, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss it. History of Valyrian steel. Valyrian steel is a type of steel that was created by the Valyrian Freehold, an ancient empire that ruled much of Essos. Valyrian steel is incredibly strong and sharp, and it can even withstand the magical properties of White Walkers. It's also incredibly rare, as the secret to creating it was lost when the Valyrian Freehold fell. The history of Valyrian steel is a long and storied one. It is said that the Valyrians discovered the secret to creating Valyrian steel when they came across a meteor made of a strange and magical metal. They used this metal to create their swords, which were far superior to any other weapons in the world. Valyrian steel quickly became the most sought-after metal in the world. It was used to create weapons and armor that were incredibly strong and sharp. Valyrian steel swords were so sharp that they could cut through anything, and they were so strong that they could withstand even the most powerful blows. The Valyrian Freehold was a powerful empire, and its armies were equipped with Valyrian steel weapons. This gave them a huge advantage over their enemies, and they quickly conquered much of Essos. However, the Valyrian Freehold eventually fell. No one knows exactly what happened, but it is believed that a combination of natural disasters and internal strife led to the empire's collapse. When the Valyrian Freehold fell, the secret to creating Valyrian steel was lost. Today, Valyrian steel is incredibly rare. There are only a handful of Valyrian steel weapons left in the world, and they are all priceless treasures. Valyrian steel is so rare that it is often used as a form of currency. Valyrian steel is also incredibly important in the Game of Thrones universe. It is the only type of steel that can kill White Walkers, and it is used to create some of the most powerful weapons in the world. So, there you have it. A brief history of Valyrian steel. It's a fascinating metal with a long and storied history. And it's still incredibly important in the Game of Thrones universe. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's all well and good, but what does this have to do with me? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because the truth is, Valyrian steel is more than just a piece of history. It's a symbol of hope. In a world where everything is constantly changing, Valyrian steel is a reminder that there are still things that are strong and unchanging. It's a reminder that there is still good in the world, even when things seem dark. So, the next time you see a Valyrian steel sword, remember what it stands for. Remember that it's a symbol of hope. And remember that even in the darkest of times, there is always light. The properties of Valyrian steel. Valyrian steel is a type of steel that was created by the Valyrian Freehold, an ancient empire that ruled much of Essos. Valyrian steel is incredibly strong and sharp, and it can even withstand the magical properties of White Walkers. It's also incredibly rare, as the secret to creating it was lost when the Valyrian Freehold fell. So, what exactly makes Valyrian steel so special? Well, there are a few things. First of all, it's incredibly strong. Valyrian steel swords are so strong that they can withstand even the most powerful blows. They're also incredibly sharp. Valyrian steel swords are so sharp that they can cut through anything, including bone and even dragon scales. But what's really special about Valyrian steel is its magical properties. Valyrian steel is the only type of steel that can kill White Walkers. White Walkers are these undead creatures that are basically the main antagonists of the show. They're incredibly powerful, and they're basically immune to regular weapons. But Valyrian steel can kill them, which is why it's so important. Another interesting property of Valyrian steel is that it's incredibly light. Valyrian steel swords are so light that they're almost weightless. This makes them incredibly easy to wield, even for someone who's not very strong. Finally, Valyrian steel is incredibly durable. Valyrian steel swords can withstand a great deal of wear and tear. They're not going to rust or break, even after years of use. So, there you have it. A brief overview of the properties of Valyrian steel. It's a fascinating metal with some truly amazing properties. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's all well and good, but what does this have to do with me? Well, I'm glad you asked. Because the truth is, Valyrian steel is more than just a piece of history. It's a symbol of hope. In a world where everything is constantly changing, Valyrian steel is a reminder that there are still things that are strong and unchanging. It's a reminder that there is still good in the world, even when things seem dark. So, the next time you see a Valyrian steel sword, remember what it stands for. Remember that it's a symbol of hope. And remember that even in the darkest of times, there is always light. The importance of Valyrian steel in the Game of Thrones universe. Valyrian steel is a type of steel that was created by the Valyrian Freehold, an ancient empire that ruled much of Essos. Valyrian steel is incredibly strong and sharp, and it can even withstand the magical properties of White Walkers. It's also incredibly rare, as the secret to creating it was lost when the Valyrian Freehold fell. In the Game of Thrones universe, Valyrian steel is incredibly important. It is the only type of steel that can kill White Walkers, and it is used to create some of the most powerful weapons in the world. Valyrian steel is so important that it is often used as a bargaining chip. For example, in the first season of the show, Ned Stark trades his Valyrian steel sword, Ice, to the Lannisters in exchange for the life of his daughter, Sansa. Valyrian steel is also important because it is a symbol of power and prestige. The houses that possess Valyrian steel swords are often the most powerful and respected houses in Westeros. For example, House Stark possesses the Valyrian steel sword, Ice House Lannister possesses the Valyrian steel swords, Widows Wail and Oathkeeper. And House Targaryen possesses the Valyrian steel sword, Blackfire. These swords are all incredibly valuable and powerful, and they are a source of great pride for the houses that possess them. Valyrian steel is also important because it is a symbol of hope. In a world where magic is real and the forces of darkness are rising, Valyrian steel is a reminder that there is still good in the world. It is a reminder that there are still people who are willing to fight for what is right, even in the face of overwhelming odds. So, the next time you see a Valyrian steel sword, remember what it stands for. Remember that it is a symbol of power, prestige, and hope. And remember that even in the darkest of times, there is always light. The future of Valyrian steel. Valyrian steel is a type of steel that was created by the Valyrian Freehold, an ancient empire that ruled much of Essos. Valyrian steel is incredibly strong and sharp, and it can even withstand the magical properties of White Walkers. It's also incredibly rare, as the secret to creating it was lost when the Valyrian Freehold fell. The future of Valyrian steel is uncertain. The secret to creating it was lost when the Valyrian Freehold fell, and there are only a handful of Valyrian steel weapons left in the world. However, some people believe that the secret to creating Valyrian steel may still be out there, and that it could be rediscovered in the future. If the secret to creating Valyrian steel is rediscovered, it could have a profound impact on the world. Valyrian steel is incredibly valuable and powerful, and it could be used to create new weapons and armor that would be far superior to anything that is currently available. Valyrian steel could also be used to create new tools and machines that would revolutionize the way we live. For example, Valyrian steel could be used to create new medical devices that would save lives, or it could be used to create new construction materials that would make buildings stronger and more durable. The possibilities are endless. If the secret to creating Valyrian steel is rediscovered, it could change the world in ways that we can't even imagine. Conclusion. Valyrian steel is a fascinating and mysterious material with a long and storied history. It is incredibly strong, sharp, and valuable, and it has played an important role in the Game of Thrones universe. The future of Valyrian steel is uncertain, but it is sure to continue to fascinate and intrigue people for years to come.
If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be here until next time.